It's Waxing Lyrical, baby.
Hello, Waxers, and welcome to Waxing Lyrical, Mains and Duts, right before Christmas period. I'm your host, Mains, and my colleague, loving life with his tiger bread pizza, is Mr. Neil Dutton. How are we, Neil?
Ho, ho, ho.
Ho, 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 indeed. We are a mere, 4 days away from Santa coming to give us all a visit.
Yep, four sleeps away from being able to use the word sleeps properly.
Exactly. And also probably the same amount of days away from Dutton retaining his title in his League of Record.
No.
No?
Just looking at the projections, I'm actually going in as underdog at the moment.
Underdog against our American representative, Rachel Symes. Congratulations to her, or as her name is quite rightly called if she wins, Dracarys, which Neil won't know means get loads of fire from dragon, burn people alive.
All right, okay.
So on that, we are here. Week 16 is upon us. It's fantasy finals for most people. Some people do 2 weeks. We only do one. We've got a few hot takes to go with first, and Dutton will give you a way of winning your fancy leagues with darlings and losers. And then if you're like me and you're in the consolation plate, it's time to win some money on your DraftKings daily fancy team of the week. But let's start with some headlines and some hot wax takes, Dutton. And at the start of the year, we do a review of all the divisions, and one division we discussed was the AFC South, mainly because we did them all. And in that division, you refused to discuss a particular team and their name because they weren't worthy of it at the time. And to be fair, it was a valid thing to do. They're now 10-4, and have the sixth best offense in total offense, the best rushing attack, and the third best defense. Are we okay now to discuss the Jacksonville Jaguars?
Yeah, because they've done something that actually warrants attention rather than just winning the off-season, which, we've mocked the Miami Dolphins. It must be a Florida thing for years about winning the off-season. Unfortunately, it doesn't mean anything once the live bullets start flying. And, people could say what they like when Doug Marrone got hired. It wasn't a particularly inspiring choice. But their offense works. Their defense is incredible. That stat that I found out today, that they haven't allowed a red zone touchdown since week 9. So that's obviously the most in the NFL. The second best record have allowed 6. This is an historically good defense, and they deserve my respect.
If we work on strange things like net points, their net points is 165 plus. That is, for example, 44 better than the next best in the AFC, which is the New England Patriots, I suppose, not surprisingly, and even ahead of Neil's Philadelphia Eagles, who are on 159, so 6 points ahead of them. The only team with a better record, Neil, Los Angeles Rams.
But they're allowing 15 points a game. Now, I don't care who you are. You don't have to be, the second coming of Bill Walsh to be able to put together an offense in these days where all you have to do is score 15 points and win a game. So all the credit goes to the defense and the offensive line, which have done a good job of keeping Bortles upright. And if you look at the injuries they've had, they haven't had Allen Robinson. Alan Hearns has been missing for most of the season. Marquise Lee's been in and out of the team. Leonard Fournette has either been injured or disciplined on quite a few occasions, and they are rolling. So hats off to them. They deserve all the plaudits they get this season. But what I'll say is, do it again.
Absolutely, Neil, absolutely. But it's good for a perennially rubbish team to be good. And they are that, and it holds out hope for teams like the Cleveland Browns.
No, it doesn't. Nothing holds out hope for the Cleveland Browns.
Probably not, no.
Especially not while Hugh Jackson's the head coach.
Yeah.
Man's an idiot.
Man's doing well.
He bent his latest folly was essentially to say that it doesn't matter if Deshaun Kaiser fails, as he was only a second-round pick.
Yeah.
Idiot.
Idiot is the best way to describe it. If we move over to the NFC, Dutton, as we know, the league has a tendency to be cyclical, and it seems like there's a cyclical move in the NFC West. The Rams, perennially rubbish, are now the best team. The 49ers may have struck gold with their quarterback, and the Cards and Hawks are at the precipice of not being very good. Is this a major power shift in the NFC West, or is it a bit of an overreaction, especially on the Seahawks?
I think it might be a slight overreaction, especially considering that Jimmy Garoppolo has played 5 career games. So let's not crown him just yet.
Undefeated in those 5 career games, and does have two Super Bowl rings as well. Yeah,
spanning 2 seasons on 2 different teams, 2 different types of offenses. Yeah, it's all very well and good. No one's ever won a Super Bowl after being 5-0. They have benefited from a fairly friendly schedule. I mean, let's look at the defenses he's ripped to pieces, shall we? Not exactly the Jacksonville Jaguars, who, of course, the 49ers go up against this week. It's good to see more teams being competitive. As I say, we don't, I'd rather there were more teams at 5-11 than teams going winless and 2-14. Obviously, the Seahawks change is coming. I think the Legion of Boom, as it was, it probably won't ever take the field for Seattle again, I don't think. And that defense on a whole, they need to start moving on from people because they're paying them. They're not getting the value for the dollar. I don't think, even though he's been okay, I don't think the trade for Sheldon Richardson has worked out for them. He hasn't really been a force. And quite frankly as well, the whole front office and the Carol Schneider axis, as it were, needs a serious sitting down and talking about how they've allowed this sense of rigor mortis to enter their offensive line and their attitude to it. It's criminal.
Yeah, when you look like you're trying to get your best player hurt, you've got serious issues. And let's be honest, when Russell Wilson came into the team, it wasn't his team. It was a running team that was based on defense. It's just not that anymore. They haven't got any running backs and haven't had for a number of years, really. And the defense is aged and just got absolutely shellacked by the Los Angeles Rams. Well,
that was cruel and unusual punishment. The other team, obviously the Cardinals, they got all together.
They probably are in a worse position than the Seahawks, and they need to have a serious consideration about what they do going forward. And for me, I'd be blowing it up and starting again. But that's just me.
It's whether Bruce Arians has got the time or patience to go for a full rebuild. And as you say, the division leaders are not champions in this sense. The Rams, on the Road to Underworld podcast, Matt Kelly did make a great point that everyone's prepared to say the biggest cause of the improvement for the Rams is Sean McVay. No, the biggest cause for improvement is they bolstered their offensive line and they gave their young quarterback weapons. Now, that's a GM's job. Obviously, the play calling and the scheming, you've done very well. But again, they were playing a 4th place schedule this year, so we'll see how that changes next year. But with the amount of youth that they have on that team, especially on the offense, they're set up quite well to. I don't expect them to fall back to the basement next year, but I've been wrong before.
I do understand where the Roto Underworld podcast is coming from, but we're just going to segue over to our next point. But if Les Snead would have done all that and Jeff Fisher was in charge, they'd have 7 wins right now and be about to go 7-9. So I'm going to give McVay more credit than they are. And as for Jeff, he wants a job in the NFL next year.
Same.
And yes, me too. And is eyeing up jobs such as the Chicago Bears, the Cincinnati Bengals. Did I see? I think there was another one which made me laugh.
The Browns.
The Browns, yeah, of course. So the question becomes, Dutton, how many jobs will be available for Jeff to look at coming this season? Obviously, we've already got Giants. Who else can you see available? I'm gonna name the ones I think.
Okay.
So we got Giants, Chicago Bears, Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I'm going to say the Arizona Cardinals. Indianapolis Colts. Cincinnati Bengals. Oakland Raiders. One of Packers or Texans will also not have a head coach.
I had all of those with the exception of the Raiders and the Packers. The thing is, as well, obviously, Jeff Fisher, is a long time coach in this in the NFL. He's on the competition committee, and of course, did play on the '85 Chicago Bears, and so he does have some links to the team. If I'm Mitchell Trubisky and Jeff Fisher walks into Hallis Hall at any point, I'm jumping into Lake Michigan.
May as well retire, Neil. You may as well retire because you're not going to be an NFL player.
I don't see how any NFL owner could sell their fan base and say, we are determined to win here. Here's our new coach, Jeff Fisher. As he has a proven track record of mediocrity. In fact, mediocrity is probably a promotion for what he is. Regarding all those teams we've talked about, the Bucs, it stinks. And it just goes to show the idea of, the man who's had this close relationship with the quarterback, let's promote him to the role that takes him further away from the quarterback, is not always a good idea. The Colts, dead man walking. Although, do you know, this will be Pagano's first losing season.
Which is crazy, really, isn't it? When you think that we could have fired him 4 times already.
Yeah, the Texans, Bill O'Brien's lost it. Has never been able to know what to do at quarterback.
But it does so on BOB, does he get a reprieve because of Deshaun Watson?
No, because he wanted to start Tom Savage in week 1.
Correct. Right.
Giants, as we know, I don't think Spagnuolo's doing himself any favours with that one, as the defence is terrible. Cards, as I say, they need to blow it up. I don't imagine Bruce Arians has got the stomach for that. The Bears, John Fox again is another one. If he's passing, his notes over to Jeff Fisher, then Mitchell Trubisky's doomed. And the Bengals, again, they probably need to have a serious look at themselves and say, we are wasting the prime of AJ Green, Gio Bernard, Joe Mixon, if we will, Perfect, people like these, Carl Lawson. We can't waste prime. We have to do something. And basically, I think an awful lot of bad apples need thrown out. That is a team that, over the course of my time watching the NFL, has probably had the most on-field discipline issues, and they've certainly had their share of off-field as well. Yeah. And that comes down to the fact they've had the same head coach for 15 years.
They have had the same head coach for 15 years, but what should be noted about said head coach is he has an over 500 record in Cincinnati, and anybody whose name isn't Paul Brown combined has a 270 winning percentage. So I do agree that it's easy to laugh at the Cincinnati Bengals, but believe you me, if you're laughing at them now, when you see them in 5 years when they haven't got Marvin Lewis, they're going to be an absolute horror show.
Yeah, in the kingdom of the blind, the one-eyed king.
Exactly.
So just because it's the politician's fallacy. We must do something. This is something. Therefore, must do it. Which is a bit like saying, my dog has 4 legs. So does my cat. Therefore, my cat is a dog. Just because he's better than everyone else doesn't mean he's the best to keep going forward.
Oh no, I think he should still be fired. I'm just saying, enjoy going forward, Cincinnati. Sneaky one, loser of Denver versus Washington in Landover, Maryland this week will probably also lose their job.
I did think about Gruden, and you look at the offensive decline since Chris Thompson went down. It's actually frightening, especially considering the quarterback is supposed to be trying to leverage his way into being the highest paid player in NFL history. He's dropped, I think, about 60 yards per game passing. So
it's weird. It's weird that now he has to take more than 3 steps back with me, you, and a few of our mates at offensive line, and he can't do that. It's weird that almost that when he had Chris Thompson, he could dump it off to him almost immediately without having to deal with the fact that defensive linemen were already in his grill.
It's almost as if, having an offensive coach and a good offensive line can contribute to a quarterback's success.
It's weird, that, isn't it? I'm sure Jared Goff is thinking something very similar, and Mitchell Trubisky is praying to the high heavens he gets one too. They're the discussion points this week, but now we want to help you win your fantasy league, and more importantly, Dutton wants to help you win it. And first of all, he's going to help you try and win it with an absolute darling.
Hello, darling.
The person I really, really like this week is Dion Lewis. He's been fantasy viable for the last few weeks, even with Rex Burkhead playing. Burkhead's now injured. That doesn't mean Dion Lewis is going to get all the touches. They probably will work in James White and Mike Gillisley as well. Lewis has rushed for at least 55 yards in 5 of his last 6 games. In the one game he didn't, he still posted 11.7 PPR points. 40.6% of Lewis's rushing attempts this season have gained 10 or more yards. The Bills allowed 150 rushing yards per game since trading away Marcel Darius, and they had 40 runs of at least 10 yards since week 9. As always, thank you to Rich Rebar for these stats.
Mm-hmm. And not only do you need to know who to pick, you also need to know who to avoid. And Dutton's going to line it up for you with a fancy loser.
Same game, other team, Tyrod Taylor. The Patriots are still seen as something of a good matchup for quarterbacks, despite the fact that if you two most recent games out of the equation, which is one against one of the best offenses in the league, and the other is a team and stadium where Tom Brady seems to struggle. The 5 games prior to that, they had held opposition passes 205 yards. And hadn't allowed more than a single passing touchdown in those 5. Tyrod Taylor has thrown for more than 1 touchdown in a game once since week 3, and his last 5 games he hasn't gone over 224 passing yards. He's also been sacked twice a game on average. So I really don't like his prospects this week, even though in my tight end streamers I have suggested Charles Clay, but he's the one that I have the most cause for concern about.
So that is a big game for winners and losers there. Bills at Pats, and Neil expecting that almost taking the Bills front office approach to avoid Tyrod Taylor. Unfortunately, I'm sure Neil would have a better quarterback to pick on than Nathan Peterman.
Well, it wouldn't be hard.
It wouldn't be. Now, if, like me, you're in the consolation plate or your fantasy season's over, that doesn't mean you should stop playing fantasy. You should be moving over to DFS. You should be looking at a fantasy team of the week, and me and Neil are going to share ours right now.
Mains and Duts. Daily Fantasy Team of the Week.
Show me the money.
Neil, who's your quarterback this week?
My quarterback at $6,200 is Matthew Stafford. He, in his last 3 games, he has 25 or more attempts and is completing 75% of the passes in all 3 games. That is tied for the second longest streak in NFL history. The Lions are playing the Bengals, who've allowed 17.8 fantasy points per game to quarterbacks since week 7. So they're playing out the string. So Stafford for me.
I've gone NFC South here, and I've gone with Drew Brees. He's playing the Atlanta Falcons. Falcons not great against the pass this year. Actually, kind of regressed on defense where people expected them to be picked up. It's one of those games. It's a massive game in the NFC South, and when games are massive, it's always good to rely on excellent quarterbacks, Pro Bowl quarterbacks, Hall of Fame quarterbacks. And I'm doing that. 6,500. Mr. Drew Brees.
He has 21 touchdowns and 10 interceptions in his last 9 home games against the Falcons.
Nice. Running back 1, Neil.
Running back 1, 7,200, Melvin Gordon. He'd been losing some passing down work to the rookie Austin Eckler, but Eckler fumbled last week, and that seemed to remind the offensive coaches for the Chargers that Melvin Gordon's actually a good pass catcher as well. He's got a rush TD in his last 2 games. They're playing the Jets, who, since their bye, are allowing 30 points per game. So the Chargers are big favourites in this one. Bryce Petty is still the quarterback for the Jets. I think Gordon could see a very large workload.
Can you imagine how bad Christian Hackenberg must be if Bryce Petty's still a starter for the New York Jets?
I think literally every press conference they come out and say we're not considering Christian Hackenberg. We're not. The next one they're just going to have to come out and say, "Look, he's shite. Stop asking."
Yeah, come on. I don't know what you really need us to say. Like, do we need to write it in big capital letters? Like, there's a reason he's not playing.
Our bad. He's shite.
Bye second round draft pick. My running back one is the same as last week, but is secretly a wide receiver one, and that's Christian McCaffrey. I like Christian McCaffrey, and he's excellent. Lots of touchdowns, well, more touchdowns passing. I think he's got 5 touchdown receptions. He's got 70 receptions this year, and him and Cam Newton know the Carolina Panthers playbook better than Clay Matthews. He is 6,400, and he's playing the trash that is the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Ipso facto,
Run CMC.
Win.
Only rookie running back in NFL history with 70 plus receptions and 5 receiving touchdowns. 73 receptions are tied for the most by a rookie in Panthers franchise history.
There we go. Running back 2, Neil.
$6,000, Deion Lewis.
Yeah, already noted above. My running back 2 is actually my most expensive player, and that's Leonard Fournette. He's 7,500. He's playing the San Francisco 49ers. Improved slightly against the run in recent weeks, however, terrible against running backs catching the ball. If Bortles gets it to Fournette, expect fireworks and magic. Expect Fournette to get a lot of action this week. I expect him to run him into the ground. 7,500, Leonard Fournette.
Needs 70 rushing yards to become the second rookie in franchise history with 1,000 yards after Fred.
Ooh, it wasn't MJD. There we go. I was about to
No.
say it was MJD. Wide receiver 1, Neil.
Receiver 1, stacking up with Stafford. Golden Tate, 6,200. The Bengals have allowed 12 receptions for 131 yards and a touchdown to slot receivers in the last 2 games. Excuse me. In Tate's last 5 road games, he has 33 receptions, 395 yards and 2 touchdowns. And I know you're always a big fan of Showtime.
I love him. I especially love this ballerina-esque celebration as he went out of bounds against the Bears last week. As I can't count, my wide receiver 1 is actually my most expensive player, and it's Keenan Allen. He's playing the Jets. Need to bounce back the Chargers this week after a disappointing loss to the Chiefs. Very Charger-esque. So I expect the Chargers to do what the Chargers do here and win this one, and then probably lose in heartbreaking fashion next week. He's 7,700. He's the best receiver on the field, and Phil Rivers will go to him a lot.
He has averaged in his last 5 games 8.8 catches, 120 yards, and he has 4 touchdowns over that span as well. He has 16 catches for 226 yards and a touchdown in past 2 road games.
Hashtag good. Wide receiver 2, Neil.
No Antonio Brown, no problem. 6,400, Juju Smith-Schuster. The Steelers are playing the Texans. 42.4% of the passing yards against the Texans has come on throws 15 or more yards downfield. That's Juju's territory. He has 95 plus receiving yards and a touchdown in 2 of his last 3 road games.
So what Neil's done is a sensible approach. He's also got more money than me, because I've just spent in excess of 15,000 on Fournette and Allen. So therefore, my wide receiver 2, also playing for Pittsburgh against the Houston Texans, probably taking the Juju Smith-Schuster role, while Smith-Schuster takes Brown, is Martavis Bryant. He's 5,600, I expect him to see a lot more of the targets. I hope he does. And the Texans are garbage.
They really are. Martavis Bryant, he's been pretty much a nothing this season. You know,
Exactly.
he did have a touchdown last week that, you know, was the classic, oh, how did he do that? Yeah, but if he did it more often, we wouldn't have to ask.
No, absolutely. He's just going to get more of the market share. It's just that way of the world. I think that's why I picked him. You know, as you said, been a disappointment. Just another one of those long line of Steelers wide receivers not named Antonio Brown, who has a great first season, gets a bit ahead of themselves, and then is never seen from again.
Yeah, that number 10 shirt really doesn't do them any favours when they keep giving it to wide receivers. It's Antonio Holmes. Oh, sorry, Mike Wallace was 17, wasn't it?
17,
yeah.
I think.
I stand correct.
But even so,
apologise.
it's wide receivers with stupid numbers, is what you're trying to say.
Yeah.
Wide receiver 3, Neil.
Bit of a bargain bin. 3,800. Kendall Wright of the Bears. He's seen 24 targets over his last 2 games. He has 17 receptions for 188 yards. And he has 3 touchdowns in 3 career games against the Cleveland Browns. I wanted someone against the Browns because I wanted a tight end, but Adam Shaheen missed last week, so I couldn't trust him, and Deion Sims is essentially another offensive lineman. So I thought Kendall Wright manning the slot might see similar matchups. It's touchdown chasing a bit because ultimately I expect Jordan Howard to run all over them, but 3,800 Kendall Wright.
My wide receiver 3 is Sammy Watkins. He's 4,400. He's playing the Titans.
The Jeff Fisher Bowl.
The Jeff Fisher Bowl, indeed. Big Jeff Fisher heavy episode. I don't really know what people will have thought of Watkins' first year in LA. He's done okay. I suppose he's not the number one that people maybe expected, but given the McVay offense, he's got a lot of yards and targets and touchdowns. Expect that to continue against Tennessee, who may be the worst 8-6 team ever.
They are trash.
They are not very good, and I'm not 100% sure how they've won 8 games. Secret in the head coaches that lose their jobs, people that can or will or should are different things. Should is Mike Mularkey. He is another one who's making his quarterback regress and therefore should be removed immediately.
Watkins averages just 2.1 receptions per game over his last 11 games, but he has scored 3 touchdowns in his last 4 games. So fantasy wise,
please
could do worse.
Please give me touchdowns. Tight end, Neil.
My tight end is Zach Ertz. 6,000. The Eagles are playing on Christmas night. They're playing the Oakland Raiders, who can't stop tight in the slightest. Zach Ertz has 7 touchdowns in his last 8 games and has a touchdown reception in 6 straight home games. He is second in the NFL among tight ends with 8 touchdowns and 4th in yards with 719. Even without Carson Wentz.
He's good, isn't he, Zach Ertz?
He's benefited at the start of the season. I say it was his 4th year. It was the first year that he's gone into the season with the same starter 2 years running. And obviously he knows Nick Foles from old, so it's not a huge drop for him. So he has been impressive. Wish he played on defence, though.
Yeah, well, yeah. I hear what you're saying, Neil. I hear what you're saying. My tight end is Eric Ebron. Fancy Marmite for many. This week I'm going on the side of good. He plays the Cincinnati Bengals, as you know, playing out the string, so to speak. He's only 3,700, cheap option. One of the many reasons that I got him. Expect him to do something and help Matt Stafford and the Lions hopefully keep the Dallas Cowboys out the playoffs.
As I've put on, he's one of my tight end streaming options for RotoViz. He, since week 11, projected he would be the tight end 3 over the season. That's how efficient he's been. He's led the team in targets in each of the past 2 weeks, and a tight end has scored in the last 2 games against the Bengals. So I think it's a good option. He's all of a sudden decided very late in the season, oh yeah, I better start playing for that contract, hadn't I?
Well, he's started for the first time in multiple years, remembering how to catch, which has always been an issue for Eric. Who's your flex option, Dalton?
Flex is Keelan Cole of the Jacksonville Jaguars, 4,700. As I say, their offense is, it looks good. Blake Bortles has been lights out last few weeks. Keelan Cole has 334 receiving yards and 3 touchdowns in his last 3 games.
Nice. My flex is goes against the discussion on Tennessee being garbage, but is the only player on offense who's any good for Tennessee, and that's Delaney Walker. He's 4,900. When I say he's Mariota's favourite target, I mean he's the only one who he seems to be able to hit. And when I say hit, he kind of gets it in his general vicinity, and Delaney Walker catches it. 4,900.
It's not how. It's how many.
Exactly, and he will get a lot of targets, I would assume, against the Rams, mainly due to the fact that Aaron Donald's going to eat many offensive linemen's lunches, and Delaney Walker will be not that far away from Mariota to throw at. Don't be expecting any long winding plays here.
No,
because they're not going to happen.
After struggling to get into the end zone to start the season, Walker has 3 touchdowns in the last 4 games. The Rams are 6th in receptions allowed to tight end and have allowed 5 touchdowns to them in their past 7 games.
Who's your defense and special teams done?
Defense and special teams, 3,500, the Bears. Cleveland have turned the ball over 34 times. That leads the league and is also the most of the franchise through 14 games since 2006. DeShone Kizer has thrown 6 red zone touchdowns this season. Why wouldn't I have the Bears?
Why wouldn't you have the Bears? It's a question on everyone's lips. Why I wouldn't have the Bears is because I didn't have enough money. However, there's things that you should always strive for, to do that one last time. Have that one last drink. Go to that one last place you haven't been for a while. I'm going to go against Jay Cutler one final time. Kansas City Chiefs are playing the Miami Dolphins in Arrowhead in a must-win game. It's going to be loud. It's going to be cold. Jay's going to want to be smoking in Boca Raton with no clothes on. He won't be. He'll be throwing interceptions to Marcus Peters and getting sacked by Justin Houston.
We'll miss him when we don't have Jay Cutler to kick around anymore. The Chiefs haven't allowed more than 2 touchdowns in a game in Arrowhead since week 7 of last season. The Dolphins average 1.1 offensive touchdowns per game on the road this season. Have I got anything else here to show how bad Pecky's going to be?
Jay Cutler experiment hasn't worked. It just hasn't worked. Whatever they wanted to happen, it didn't happen.
Yeah, bearing in mind he was essentially handpicked by the offensive guru. Maybe he might be outside chance to get fired. Justin Houston has 4 sacks in his last 4 home games. He had a sack the last time they played Miami.
Let's recap on quarterback.
Matt Stafford.
I've got Drew Brees, running back 1.
Melvin Gordon.
I've got Christian McCaffrey, running back 2.
Dion Lewis.
I've got Leonard Fournette, wide receiver 1.
Golden Tate.
Keenan Allen, wide receiver 2.
Juju Smith-Schuster.
I've got Martavis Bryant, wide receiver 3.
Kendall Wright.
I've got Sammy Watkins, tight end.
Zach Ertz.
Eric Ebron.
Flex is Keelan Cole.
I've got Delaney Walker. Any defense and special teams?
The Bears.
I've got the Chiefs. Dalton, where can people catch you the rest of this week before Christmas is upon? Where can we catch you, Dalton?
This week, I have my Week 16 tight end streaming article out on RotoViz. It's Championship Week. These really count. I was on with Nat on Tuesday for the last time, giving a bit some fancy advice there, and I will be on with Nat prior to kick-off of the early games on Sunday. Also, just a little upcoming, I will have 3 previews of players playing in bowl games. That will be entering the draft, so it should be players that people should be aware of. And I'll give you a little tip: they're all tight ends.
Dalton, the tight end master, insert inappropriate gag or 18-year-old teenager Paul laughing
Yeah, say goodnight, Gracie.
Merry Christmas to one and all, and we will speak to you next week. These top guys are out.